What's going on, everybody? Katie here, and welcome back to the 7th official episode of the King Darius Experience. Let's hop right into today's episode because in the process of creating content that helps creators become awakened and empowered to do the things that they love to do, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball as I intro this episode and let you know that creating in and of itself is not enough. Creating is not enough. If you create without distribution, it is like everything you are creating doesn't exist. And I was just talking to a few people earlier today where we were talking through the different types of creators, right? Because everybody is creating. If you're making or doing anything, if you're creating products, if you're creating solutions, if you're creating relationships, if you're creating networks, if you're creating opportunities, if you're pushing anything forward and you have to create something in order to do that, you are in a network or an ecosystem or an atmosphere of constantly having to create. And if the things you're creating aren't being seen or utilized by people, it's literally like they don't exist. So it's not just content that you're creating. It's not just social media stuff that you're creating. Yes, that's the fun part if you actually execute against it and it starts gaining traction, all that kind of stuff. But as a creator, you have to create multiple things in order for your creations to come into fruition. Content is just one of them. So this process of creating is just one step, the initiating cornerstone, if you will, of everything else you're going to do. Then your job is to position and distribute. That is your number one job as a creator, to make sure that the things you are creating actually get seen. And how you do this is through a process that we call atomization, right? It sounds like a really large word. It literally just means when you have a nucleus solution, a nucleus creation, a nucleus product, a nucleus piece of content, how are you going to atomize that? The process of breaking something down into its most simple and natural forms, right? And when it comes to communication, there's only three ways you can break something down: audio, visual, and textual. How can you atomize the nucleus creations that you are creating into smaller pieces and then position those smaller pieces into their relevant platforms, with keeping what we said in last episode, in episode 6, in mind, which is in a relevant way, right? In a native way, in a way that matches the behavior, the content, the style, and infrastructure of those specific platforms. So because you're not only creating content, this atomization process goes across the board. And what that looks like as it pertains to content, and let's start there because maybe some of it will start making sense, is, let's say, for example, the King Darius Experience, right? You see the long form version of it if you are on YouTube, right? Has the sidebar, has the topics, and that's just a fun way of keeping it engaged. You know what's coming. You know, if you don't necessarily like this topic, you could skip somewhat ahead and get to a next topic and that sort of thing. So it keeps me contextual and relevant to the people who watch that, and that's the long form version. But that's just for YouTube, because I know as that catalog grows and as people find me and we gain more subscribers and diversify the type of videos that we're posting on YouTube, that's going to be a very valuable nucleus piece of content that people can rely on its, multiple times a week, essentially every single day pace. And that's always going to be there, and it's always going to be compounding and growing, right? So that's just one. Most people stop there. They create a video, they start doing content marketing, and they pick one platform and they post it. Oh yeah, it's up on YouTube. I have a YouTube account. You're not a YouTuber. You're not a Instagrammer. You're not a TikToker. You're not a Snapchatter. You are a creator. And in order for a creator's ideas to be seen, they need distributed and positioned, or positioned and distributed, whatever way you look at it. It's not enough to just create. But here is the indispensable creating disclaimer. It has to be indispensable. It has to be indispensable content. It has to be the type of content to where when people listen, watch, read, that it's fully valuable in all of its form. In all of its forms. So actually, one of the things that we're working on right now with the Sacred Network and the content, I'm going to pull this up in real time so you guys can see what we're thinking through, is the different styles or types of content aside from just their forms, right? So the styles of content would be like education content or entertainment content or escapism content, which overall encompasses an overall experiential version of that content, right? Because how you consume content is different depending on what your intent is, right? If you're just trying to escape and watch a movie or listen to some music or consume some type of media, you're trying to escape. You're not trying to think. You're not trying to learn. You're not trying to educate yourself. None of that. You're literally just trying to escape. If you're trying to learn a skill, a trade, a tactic, or a strategy, you're probably going to look for how-to content. You want to learn, that's educative content. If you just want to be entertained, but you don't want to escape, because escape is mindless. Like, I'm listening to music. It could be entertaining in certain settings, concerts, new music, stuff like that. But when you're listening to music, you can do other things. You can run, you can work, you can, get things done because you're escaping. It's helping your mind just ignore everything else, right? And then you have entertainment, which is a little bit different because I'm trying to focus on being entertained. Like, make me laugh, make me cry, make me feel emotion, take me on a journey, tell me a story, right? That's a different type of content. So you get to choose what style of content you're creating and what type you're creating and how you atomize and break that down, so long as all of that content is indispensable, that you're not just putting another voice out there, another YouTube show, another video podcast, another series of Instagram posts, 10 more TikTok trends, 50 more Snapchat series, whatever it is that you're creating. You don't just need to be another voice. You need to be indispensable for the thing you're creating for. So if it's art, if it's cooking, if it's healthcare, if it's manufacturing, if it's, online e-commerce type stuff, whatever it is that you're creating, whatever solutions, products, services, content that you're creating, make sure that it's indispensable. Make sure it's valuable. Make sure it's completely relevant. And we talk about these things in the podcast in a very compound, episodic way, to where I'm always building off of topics we've already talked about. So if you don't know how to make something relevant, watch the last episode where we talked about relevancy and how to position things, right? And the life cycle of relevancy, because all of those things are relevant, and no pun intended, in and of themselves, right? Because you need to know them in order to do these things I'm talking about. So to review a little bit of what I was saying, pull up my notes here really quick. You need to know that creating content by itself is not enough. You need to distribute that content, those products, those services, those solutions, those opportunities, those relationships. You need to position them and distribute them. Then you need to go through the atomization process of breaking those down and positioning them even further and distributing them to their rightful platforms in a very native, valuable way. And as long as you're continually creating that nucleus piece of content and growing your catalog of assets and solutions and products and network and all that kind of stuff in an indispensable way, then you can never go wrong, because it's just going to cascade over and over and over again. So hopefully that was helpful to you. I wanted to build on yesterday's topic of the relevancy cycle and stuff like that, because I think it's really important to know that, get inspired and ideate through the a million possibilities of content and solutions and products and whatnot that you can create. But make sure you position them, make sure you distribute them, or else you're literally wasting your time. Nobody likes doing that, right? It's almost embarrassing. I understand why people don't start, but I was just posting on social media today that we're all starting from the same ground level and we are all competing for the same attention, if you will. So just because somebody has more vanity than you or an industry is saturated, none of that stuff matters, right? As long as you are relevant today. As long as the solutions you're creating today, the content you're creating today, all of that is relevant and most contextual for today. It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or if it might be tomorrow. Is it today? And then as long as you're doing that every single day, your business, your brand, your ideas, and most importantly, your creations will provide more and more compound freedom for you as you move forward and execute against them. So we will see you tomorrow in episode 8 of the King Darius Experience. Talk is talk. When this whole thing over, I'ma send my invoice payday. You don't wanna say that.